Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, your go-to podcast for all things green and growing. I'm Ben, your allotment guide, and here to help you cultivate your garden and your passion for plants. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Each episode will dig into tips, tricks and techniques to make your garden and allotment thrive. From planting, sowing and growing, we will share all the tips and advice. We will also have regular episodes talking about what we have been up to on the allotment. So sit back, grab a brew and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for another brand new episode this week. Well, if you've not listened to my previous episodes, we talk about everything that we've got up to down at the allotment on Saturdays and Sunday. We've braved the rain, we've gone down to the allotment and we have got some stuff done. So if you want to find out what I've got up to, make sure you listen back to them episodes. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about all the common mistakes what gardeners do. And I certainly make many of them, and I'll certainly make plenty more of them. And with gardening, you're always learning every single day. There's always something new to learn when you're gardening. And I learn from mistakes. I don't mind making mistakes because obviously that's how you learn. And sometimes you fix a mistake and then you make the mistake again, but you have to keep on trying and persevering, and you will then achieve great things down at your allotment and gardening. But we're going to talk about 5 different things down at the allotment. The 5 things most common on making mistakes with. Now, one of them is overwatering, and you can commonly overwater plants. Now, I didn't learn much about this until I actually worked at the garden centre, and they taught me how to keep things watered and how to check to see if they're still damp and stuff by checking underneath them to see if they're wet underneath. Because sometimes you can just stick your finger on top, think it's dry, but it's not. It might be wet deep down, and that is where the roots are. And overwatering them obviously can cause root rot, which you obviously don't want. Now, one of the main things that can get damaged by overwatering is pumpkins, marrows, squash. If you're watering near the top of the plant, they can easily snap off from overwatering. They can cause the rot and cause the plant to actually just snap off easy. One thing I learned about watering my squash plants, like your courgette, your marrows, your pumpkins, your zucchini, if you're in America, that's what you call it, not courgette. But yeah, one thing I learned about them is to plant a plant pot at the side of them, down into the ground, and when you're watering them, water into the plant pot and it waters straight to the roots, right where the water is needed and where the plant needs it and where it'll soak it up from. I even chuck some like chicken pellets in it as well, so then I water straight into that, and the chicken pellet feed will go straight to the roots and feed them that way. That's one way that I do look after my pumpkins and squash. And that's one little tip that I've learned myself, really. I just saw the video online of people planting plant pots, but they didn't show putting like a bit of food in it or something like that. So that is how I get great produce from that. So when you're watering, make sure that they are fully dry or that they're not too damp when you're watering stuff. You don't always want stuff sat in water, as again, sat in water doesn't help them. It'll just rot them because the water will just rot away the roots, and then you won't have any good produce. So just keep them watered every few days and they should thrive pretty much. When I used to have stuff in my polytunnel growing, like my peppers and my tomatoes and my cucumbers, I used to have to water them every single day because it did dry out. The compost dries out so easy, and yeah, you have to water them every single day. But just be careful when overwatering stuff. Like when we had a drought the year after, I decided to plant all my tomatoes and my cucumbers outside because I knew I wouldn't be able to get down to the allotment to water them every day in the polytunnel. So I planted them outside because I knew that the ground holds water pretty well. So I could water them like every 3 or 4 days rather than every single day. And they absolutely thrived. My cucumbers have done best that they ever did last year. And it was the first time that I've ever grown them outside. So I am going to grow my cucumbers outside from now on. So on to number 2, ignoring soil health. Now, I didn't learn much about soil health for quite a few years down at the allotment. I just used to plant stuff every single year. Didn't used to bother looking into my soil and seeing if it needed any nutrients and stuff like that. Obviously, you can get testers to see the pH and whether there's any nutrition in the soil and stuff like that. And obviously, you can feed your soil as well. As well as feeding your plants, you can feed your soil by adding nutrition from adding manure, adding special soil food, and compost or leaf mulch, stuff like that, to improve your soil and to improve your plants. If you don't look after your soil, your plants will fail and they won't do very well. So you need to start looking after your soil and use the winter time to improve that soil. The winter is the perfect time to do it, and add in that manure and dig it in, or layer it on the top of the ground and then dig it in the springtime to feed the soil and get the nutrition back, and hopefully grow some fantastic produce down in your allotments and gardens. I so can't wait to get growing again next year. It needs to hurry up and get to springtime. So next up is planting without planning. Now, I always go on about this. At this time of year, I draw up a plan of my allotment and I write down where things are going to grow. I look at the shade on my allotment, where trees are, what's shady and what's not shady, what gets full sun all the time, and plant accordingly. And obviously, you need to look at your spacing as well when you're planting plants. Don't try and cram too much in. I've done that in the past. I've got loads of plants growing, so I've just crammed them in and hoped for the best, because I don't like wasting plants that I've grown. But if you don't leave enough space in, it's hard to weed in between the plants, and then the plants won't survive and they won't be able to get established and grow as well without the good spacing. So you need to keep plenty of space in between your plants to keep them weeded. It's best off to have less plants, keep them weeded, and then you'll get fantastic produce as well. So look into the spacing, and also look into companion planting. I've not really learned much about companion planting. I need to learn about that. That is one thing that I need to start looking into. Like, I know that there's the three sisters if you plant like sweet corn, runner beans, and something else as well. They were meant to help each other when growing them. But yeah, there's different plants that you can plant near each other, and they will help grow better plants. So have a look into companion planting as well, and so do I. I need to look into that. So maybe I'll do an episode on companion planting, and then we'll both learn at the same time. I'm always learning with gardening. Whenever I'm doing these podcasts, I do like research into things, so I'm learning every single day. And I think, oh, I'm going to do that. Oh, that's happened to me. But yeah, you're always learning with gardening. So, neglecting seasonal timing. So, you need to look into the importance of understanding planting calendars. You need to think of when you're going to start sowing your seeds at the right time of the year, and planting out at the right time of the year as well. Everyone gets so excited at the beginning of the year when it starts getting warmer. Like, sometimes we can have a heat wave around Easter time, and people start planting plants outside, and I'm thinking, no, don't plant them outside yet, because you can still get a frost. Um, that's the saying, never cast a cloud till May is out. And that is to do with the gardening, that you shouldn't plant outside until May is gone, because you can still get frost. If you're down south in the UK, possibly you'll be all right. But up north, where I am in Yorkshire, you've got to think about when the frost has passed and when we won't get no more frosts, and keep an eye on the temperatures and the weather, and have a look around when you should be planting stuff. So never get too eager to plant stuff outside, because if the frost comes, it can just wipe the lot out. So look at the calendar and think about when you're going to be growing stuff as well. Now, the next one, the last one, which is the most important one of the lot, and I should listen to this. Yes, Ben, you need to listen to this. And this is forgetting to label plants. Hold your hands up, everybody who does it nearly every year, forgetting to label your plants. Yep, I hold my hands up. I am a plant labeler forgetter. I'll stand up to that one. But yeah, you need to label your plants. And I've done in the past, like I've sown all my seeds. I put my seed packets underneath the seed trays, and then I water them all, and the plant packets become disintegrated, and I can't tell what's growing there. And then you're looking at your courgettes, your squash, and your marrows, and you're thinking, which one's which? What variety is which? Oh no. And then you don't know what it is until it actually starts growing produce on it, what actually plant it is. It's like all the squashes look the same, like your pumpkin, marrow, and courgette. Then all your brassicas look the same, like your cauliflower, your cabbage, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts. They all look the same. And you're thinking, no, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm planting. And you think, no, I need to label them. I need to label them. So make sure you spend time and label all your plants up. And obviously, you can make your own plant labels. It's cheap enough to do. Just use a milk carton, slice it up into strips, and write down the name of the plant with a permanent marker. And then you can label your plants up. And if you ever see me doing a video and I've not labelled them up, make sure you comment in it, Ben, label your plants. Ben, label your plants. I know I'll end up forgetting them to do them again. But yeah, those are the 5 big main mistakes what you can make when you're gardening and allotmenting. And remember, one thing that you've got to remember is that mistakes help you grow, just like your plants. So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and sometimes I learn from them, sometimes I don't learn from them. And obviously, a lot of times I share them with you, all the mistakes that I do, because I'm an honest gardener. I'll tell you what I've done good and what I've done rubbish. But yeah, I do share everything with you. So I hope you've enjoyed that podcast for today. If you're new to this podcast channel, make sure you give it a like, make sure you give us a follow, click the bell so that you get notified when new podcasts come up, because they're coming up every single day at the moment. We usually put them on for about 6:30 in the morning for you to listen to from the morning. So I hope that you enjoy these podcasts. I'm glad to be back every single day for you. So until next time, everyone, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gardening with Ben. I hope you have found some useful tips and inspiration for your own gardening and allotment journey. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love for you to leave a review and share the podcast with fellow gardening enthusiasts. Your support helps us grow this community and continue bringing you great content. You can also follow us on social media on every platform called Gardening with Ben for daily gardening tips and updates. Happy gardening, and until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with